group-wide for the M2M business of DT. Prior to joining Deutsche Telekom in 2002, he held various management positions at CNI and Mansmann Arcor, and was managing director of an IP provider for business customers. Alexander also holds a PhD in economics from the University of St. Gallen. So please welcome Alexander Lautz. Great to see you.
Thank you very much. And so, it's my timer. Thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to be here today. Vienna, also for Deutsche Telekom, is a very important place. And with respect to M2M especially, because a lot of our machine-to-machine IoT activities are steered by our competence center, which is based in Vienna. I'll give you an example. We recently started the production of BMW's 4G connectivity, and in 57 countries you will have cars out there with a SIM card from T-Mobile Austria. So it's a great pleasure to be here. It's a very important country for us. I would like to jump into one thing today, which is not a technology part and not the, portfolio part of products of Deutsche Telekom, more an impulsive presentation on pricing. And I hope it's of value for you to have a different view, because we can talk about technologies, we can talk about components, but in the end the question is who is paying for that, and how much can we afford to build, because in the end there must be an income. So I would start with that one, and we call it value-based pricing. This is the idea. This is the typical moaning chart from a telco perspective, like, oh yes, we have these challenges, bandwidth is increasing, or new technologies, as Ansgar told us, new technologies are coming in. We have then decreasing revenues per users, which is still a thing in the telco industry. Some have slightly now upgrades in revenues again, but it's still on the level more or less that we had 5 to 10 years ago. And we have these so-called over-the-top service providers, and we always in Europe we say, yeah, there's the guys from Google and Amazon, and they're taking part of our network. So this is the moaning part. It's true, but it's also reality. So let's face it. How can we counteract? What can we do with that? And I will show you two elements on how do we react in pricing normally. And the one is the consumer part. So the one is, what is the pricing principle in consumer? In consumer is normally you pay with your profile. So there's a service for free, like Instagram or WhatsApp, and you give your pictures and everything in there, or Google Mail, and your mail will be looked at, and then you get more advertising. So the consumer part is you pay with your profile, and you get a profiled advertising. And the money in the consumer part comes from the Coca-Colas of the world, the advertisers, who fund it, who give a lot of money into the segment, and this feeds the whole system. This is consumer. It's a little bit black and white, but for me this is true. And what Google is doing is, they have Android on the smartphones, they have the browser on the PCs, they're going now into the software in the cars, they will go into the routers at home, so we will find all these elements, only that more money is steered to the advertising platforms of Google, as an example. And there's a lot of advertising money out there. In the business part, and most of you, I think, are in the business area, is different. Which company in the business part would like to give his data to a company like Google, or a company like Telekom, or a company like Capgemini, whatsoever? So you don't want that. Or a city, you don't want to give your data actually for free to a platform somewhere. This is when you're in industrial manufacture, the way how you steer your machines. This is your top secret. You don't give it away. And so business customer, that's our experience, and Deutsche Telekom has a big footprint into industrial internet, it's always like the data is a core asset and we don't give it away. So we need a different pricing model. We cannot adopt the consumer part. And this is also important when we had the discussion tomorrow, IoT, the B2B market in IoT has a completely different economics than the B2C market. So, how do we work? When we are the customer and we go to a customer, what's going to happen there is, there's a traditional mistake actually also of a telco or of a technical companies. We are so proud about our technologies. We go to the customer and we tell the customer the features of our product. And so this is something like, oh, you want to have 2G or 3G or 4G? Or low power wide areas, cool, or Wi-Fi, or we talk about these technologies. In the end, it doesn't matter for the customer, and he doesn't want to decide on, let's say, what kind of technologies. I mean, they want to solve want to have a problem being solved, and not like made a decision on a pre-component of technology. And my favorite example is on the pricing. We go to an industrial company who is doing, manufacturing machines for maybe a sewing machine. And we ask the customer, how many megabytes do you need? And the customer said, I don't know. I just want to know the temperature of my machine. So we tend, as an industry, and this is really something also, especially the telco industry, but also the IT industry, we tend to bring all our nice components into the customer meeting, and so we make it really complex. The same with cloud technologies, security technologies. So a customer sits there, and not every customer has hundreds or thousands of engineers, experts who are also in standardization, so they just say, okay, what are they talking about? So that's much too complex. So my takeaway is, if we find a new way of pricing scheme, it really gives more reluctance, so it's better for the customer. And here I think we're solving more the problems of the customer. And the idea I want to elaborate now with you is the pricing on value-based pricing. What does it mean, value-based pricing? What do I mean with value-based pricing? So traditionally, a price is based on components. So when we set a price as an industry, we said, okay, what components do I have? And then make a price out of that. The other way is to say, what's the value of the customer? And from that one, what kind of target costs can we have to deliver on that one? And can we participate actually more on the value of the customer? Let me go through this kind of little model here. So we have the product, traditional way, there's a product component, this has a cost perspective. We say, okay, it's then the price in there, there's a margin in there, and in the end it's a value, and then it's the customer. And I would like to turn it around, to say, start with the customer value. So there's a clear value, and based on that one, set a price, and based on that one, set a target cost, and then design your product. So do it the other way around. It's a different approach. I'll give you an example. So, and this, by that one, the example should be, I'll give you an example. So to set this, you take an example for the elevator industry. It's always an example, nice example for everyone. Elevators, they have hundreds of thousands of elevators out there, and there's a field service organization, and this field service organization can be optimized when an elevator is connected. But from the methodology, we have to find something, a point where we measure the value of the customer. And this is the critical point. We call it, from the methodology part of view, a zero point indicator, zero price indicator, where you find a basis. From that one you can build the value. Because when you make a contract with a customer, you need to set something to say, okay, come on, this is the point 0, and from that one we measure the improvement. If you don't set that, you have nothing to share or nothing to see. So this is very important that you have this price set. Then you need to have really a trustful relationship, because somebody has to open up his books and to say, okay, this is the 0 base, which is normally not the case. The customer gives a tender out, classically, and say, what's your price for that? And now the customer says, okay, this is my cost base right now, and by your implementation, I want to save costs, or I want to have additional revenues. And in the end, and I will show it in an example later on, it's a win-win for both parties. I'm more than convinced that this is the future of pricing in the IoT space. Coming to that example. So there's a customer, it's an insurance company. It's an insurance company doing health insurance, and is having a lot of, let's say, materials you have to give to the people who have diseases. For example, like when you broke your leg, you need a wheelchair or something like this. And the processes this company has are not really digitalized. So these processes could be much better, and then you have just less fraud on these materials, and it's much more efficient. So in the standard way, when you go for the product-based, it was like, okay, the company, a telco or an IT provider would say there's connectivity, there's a platform, there's hardware, and maintenance. This is wrong on the slide, so maintenance should be in the product side. So in total, we calculate 7.5 million. We put a margin on top, and so we said maybe this is a contract volume of 8.3 million. By the way, it's a real example. Yeah, it's 8.3 million. It's an IT, telco, combined contract to the customer. And it's a good margin in there. And the people who did that in our organization, they were really proud, and they said, okay, this is a good margin. Normally you don't have these kind of margins. But the customer value in this specific example was savings of costs of 200 million. 200 million process costs in 10 years. And so the question is it a good business for us? I mean, probably not. Could have been better, because when we design this thing on the other side with the values of the customer, and there's this 200 million, and we make a handshake with the customer, good relationship to say there's a 200 million savings, the customer clearly in the beginning of the project, this was his case, so he knew that, what he was going for, his target. And we said we take 10% of that. It would have been a little bit more than this 8.3 million, because 20 million. So you can leverage on that one. Yeah. So that's a real example. It's not only a telco product, it's a combination of many things, but this is actually what we can derive from the market as one idea for value-based pricing. And we have reference cases, as I said, this virtual healthcare marketplace. We have also a case where we discuss with the customer on sewing machines. And we have a third one with road sweepers. And the sewing machines, for example, is based on not the just OPEX savings, it's based on profit increases, gross profit increases. And this is two elements. It's additional revenues and it's savings. So you can have also value-based pricing on both components, on savings and new revenues. And on road sweepers, this is a completely different model. This is an OPEX-based model. These road sweepers, they're usually sold to the cities. They're very also very cost-intensive products. And these companies sell this as a service to the city. And we are participating on this service fee, which will be derived on a monthly basis. So there are elements where we can really discuss with the customer to solve this problem, coming from that value-based into our product calculation. And let me sum it up. What do we learn on that one is on the customer, the city, the industrial partner, they have clear benefits and they have risks and costs. Starting with the costs and the risks, you have to pay, so the risk is that you pay more when the business pay more if the business develops better than expected. Yeah, so you set the indicator, you make a revenue share purchase a contract. It's getting much better than you thought. You have to pay more to the supplier. So this could be a risk or downside. And this is even harder for me, is to set this indicator, to open your books and to say, this is our zero measurement. And you need really trust to do so, because you share that with your supplier, actually. On the benefit side for the customer is that you, in the beginning, you pay nothing, or you pay just a little bit. Yeah? So if you make a bet on a new business, you do, for example, a revenue share model, and the revenues are not coming, you don't have the costs. I mean, the risk is really shared with your supplier. This is I think, one big benefit that you see here. Yeah. For the supplier, it's the opposite around. So the risk for the supplier is, in the end, you don't earn any money. Yeah. So this could be the case. If the benefit is not taking place, you don't earn any money, or just few. If you have maybe a setup fee or something, but on the good side is you can earn much more money, and you're bound to think, how can my customer even be better, and make the proposal. And this really returns into long-term relationships, and this is much more valuable than these product-based or cost-based pricing, which in the end, for me, is a pricing model built on mistrust between two parties. And I would like to end my presentation, or my impulse, that we said more trust between supplier and customer, longer term loyalty, much better, share the risk, share the benefits, and then we are not so complex, and the customer doesn't need to go into the details of our product calculation at all. So thank you very much. I wish you all, or us all, a very nice event here, venue, and I will hand over to Jeremy again. Thank you.
Alexander, thank you.
Thank you.
Because we